how the Queen felt about it, but from the poor infant's point of view, it must have been like starting life on a busy stall in a crowded marketplace. Being born in a feather bed was the last the poor babe knew of luxury, though, or of a mother's touch. I can vouch for that. In the 14 years of her marriage to King Charles VI of France, Queen Isabeau had already popped out 4 boys and 5 girls, like seeds from a pod, which was about the level of her maternal interest in them. It was questionable whether she even knew how many of them still lived. Once all the worthies had verified that the new arrival was genuinely fresh sprung from the royal loins, and noted that it was regrettably another girl, the poor little scrap was whisked away to the nursery to be trussed up in those tight linen bands the English call swaddling. So when I first clapped eyes on her, she looked like an angry parcel, screaming fit to burst. I did not take to her at first, and who could blame me? It was hard being presented with all that squalling evidence of life, when only a few hours ago my own newborn babe had died, before I was even able to hold him. "You must be brave, little one," my mother said, her voice hoarse with grief, as she wrapped the tiny blue corpse of my firstborn son in her best linen napkin. "Save the tears for the living, and your love for the good God." Kindly meant words that were impossible to heed, for my world had turned dark and formless, and all I could do was weep great hiccoughing sobs that threatened to snatch the breath from my body. In truth, I wasn't weeping for my dead son. I was weeping for myself, swamped with guilt and self-loathing, and convinced that my existence was pointless if I could not produce a living child. In my grief, God forgive me, I'd forgotten that it was He who gives life and He who takes it away. I only knew that my arms ached for my belly's burden, and desolation flowed from me like the Seine in spate. So too, in due course, did my milk. Sad, useless gouts of it, oozing from my nipples and soaking my chemise, making the cloth cling to my pathetic, swollen breasts. Ma brought linen strips and tried to bind them to make it stop, but it hurt like devil's fire, and I pushed her away. And so it was that my whole life changed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I have to confess that my baby was a mistake. We all make them, don't we? I'm not wicked through and through or anything. I just fell for a handsome, laughing boy, and let him under my skirt. He did not force me, far from it. He was a groom in the palace stables, and I enjoyed our romps in the hayloft as much as he did. Priests go on about carnal sin and eternal damnation, but they do not understand about being young and living for the day. I'm not pretending I was ever beautiful, but at 14 I was not bad-looking, brown-haired, rosy-cheeked and merry-eyed. A bit plump, maybe, or well-covered, as my father used to say, God bless him. But that is what a lot of men like, especially if they are strong and muscular, like my Jean-Michel. When we tumbled together in the hay, he did not want to think that I might break beneath him. As for me, I did not think much at all. I was intoxicated by his deep voice, dark, twinkling eyes, and hot, thrilling kisses. I used to go and meet him at dusk, while my parents were busy in the bakehouse, pulling pies out of the oven. When all the fuss about sinful fornication had died down, Jean-Michel joked that while they were pulling them out, he was putting one in. I should explain that I'm a baker's daughter. My name is Guillemette Dauphin. Yes, it does mean of bread. I am bred of bread. So what? Actually, my father was not only a baker of bread, but a patissier. He made pastries and wafers and beautiful gilded marchpanes, and our bakehouse was in the centre of Paris, at the end of a cobbled lane that ran down beside the Grand Pont. Luckily for us, the smell of baking bread tended to disguise the stench from the nearby tanning factories and the decomposing bodies of executed criminals, which were often hung from the timbers of the bridge above to discourage the rest of us from breaking the law. In line with guild fire regulations, our brick ovens were built close to the river, well away from our wooden house and those of our neighbours. All bakers fear fire, and my father often talked about the great conflagration before I was born, which almost set the whole city ablaze.